Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another edition of the Democratic View. And my name is Phyllis Italiano. I am the hostess. And with me I have today a wonderful friend of mine who I have done a show with for a long time, East End Veterans, and his name is Joe Giannini, and he is a criminal defense lawyer as well as a Vietnam vet. And we got to say that with a special reverence because it was quite something. Welcome, Joe.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
All right, this Brooklyn boy went into the service as a college graduate.
I graduated from Hofstra University in January 1966, and I joined the Marine Corps in March 1966 as an enlisted Marine, not an officer. I started out as an enlisted Marine. Understand?
I do.
Okay. That means I had to go through Paris Island, which was really a tough thing to do, but I was in good shape because I had been an athlete all my life. Played a little football, I wrestled, I worked out. And while I was in Paris Island, some officers came around and wanted to know if they pulled out about 3 or 4 of us for about 80 recruits, and they said that we could apply for OCS, Officer Candidate School. I did, and I was accepted after I finished all my training. I made PFC, went to OCS, and was commissioned as a second lieutenant. Too much?
No.
So I was commissioned as a second lieutenant. I went to basic school after that for 6 months to learn how to actually lead a rifle platoon. Graduated in May, I think of '67. I got 30 days leave. I married my girlfriend, and 12 days later, I was on my way to Vietnam. I turned 24 on my way to Vietnam. And that was the beginning of an experience, 13 months that was life-changing, life-affecting. It was everything. I mean, it's where I learned about myself, really, and about human nature, good and bad, and where I came of age, all these things happened. I lost my innocence. I came of age. I saw things, I did things, I heard things that were out of the norm, you might say. And I didn't realize at the time that it would affect me for the rest of my life. Not many of us where I was made it through without getting wounded. Most of them were killed or wounded. Even the ones that came back had post-traumatic stress disorder. There was no such phrase back then. It was still battle fatigue. And all of us that were in Vietnam, especially where I was, we were affected by Agent Orange. There was no phrase Agent Orange, but we were eating it because they were spraying it on us. We were eating it, we were drinking it, we were bathing in it, and we were very, very sick. And all they kept telling us is that you had, it was the jungle that was doing to you. You had jungle rot, you had the diarrhea was from the jungle. It was horrible. Am I saying too much?
No, Joe. No, because you know what? There are an awful lot of people who don't know the prices of war, and they don't understand how terribly
debilitating. Oh
yes, that was the word that was going to come out, debilitating, and how it does indeed change your life. I know that I have often quoted and said that I never really knew what war was. I mean, I thought it was a John Wayne movie. Or, and I saw all those Battle Cry, all those kind of movies, and that's what war was to me. Until I came to that show, East End Veterans, and then I really learned. You taught me through your conversations with you and reading your work what war was about. And when Platoon was on this week, I couldn't watch it. I can't watch it. I can't watch it because I knew, first of all, it was about, there was with the scene where our troops were inflicting terrible things upon the Vietnamese. And I know the story of the woman who came down to the river. Would you tell us that story?
Is this the woman I
Came down
saved?
to know the woman that was came down to the river.
Oh, that's a terrible.
Tell us that story.
Yeah. We went out on an operation. We flew into this area, and on the way in, we were going in with choppers, old choppers. Whoever was there, whether it was the NVA or the Viet Cong, they were firing at us. You could hear the rounds and pinging off the. So we landed, and as soon as I got out, I knew it was a bad place. It was a bad place, But that night, we set in, and we set in along a river. The river was in front of us, and the company commander called me up, who I hated, Captain Landis. I don't mind saying his name, and he was giving me a mission to go out on a patrol, a combat patrol. I'm not sure if he finished giving me the mission before this happened, but what happened is we were on this hill overlooking the river, and there was a village on the other side. A woman walked out of the village with it looked like a bamboo stick with water cans, and she walked down to the river and to get water. And then all of a sudden, this Marine, I couldn't see him because he was off to my right in some, I guess it was bamboo or, but I couldn't see him. But they were set in, and this one Marine fired a shot at her, and then another shot, and he missed. And the Captain Landis yelled down to these Marines, which I couldn't see them. He said, "What's going on?" And they said, someone yelled out, "We've got a VC out there." And he said, "Well, kill it." And I said to him, "It's not a VC, it's just a woman." And they opened up on her. And basically they used her as target practice. She actually bent down, got some water, turned around, and she took about one step, and I heard one bullet just hit her like that in the back, and she went down, and she was dead. I was really, believe it or not, I was upset. Even all the things that we, had saw, what we did, when I saw that woman just get killed like that, it really bothered me, and I thought, I'm losing it, but maybe not. Maybe I have just a little bit left of my humanity, because it upset me. But I didn't even think of reporting the captain or the Marines. They just murdered this woman, and okay, what are my orders? And he gave me these orders which were very dangerous, and I did it the next. I did it that next morning. I left with my platoon. It turned out many years later. Do you remember a young Marine that I did a show with, John McInerney, called A Few Good Men? Do you remember that show?
I do.
John McInerney was with us. He was along the river that day. I couldn't see him. He was with another platoon. I had Bravo 1, and he was, I think, with Bravo 3. He remembered the same incident, and he just told me about it recently. He said he remembered the same thing, and he remembered when these Marines next to him opened up. He said he would not fire. He said he knew it was wrong. And one of the Marines claimed to kill, and he said he never spoke to him again. He hated him so much. He claimed that he killed this woman. I did it. I killed her. He said that was it. So this young Marine, who we have reunited just recently, he saw that happen from one perspective, and I saw it happen, and we both got upset. He was more upset than I was. He remembered the whole thing.
Well, that's the kind of thing I think that is the cause of the terrible thing we now call post-traumatic stress disorder. It's those things that you experience that scar you and are like hidden memories, because the truth is that when you come back, and you came back after Vietnam with a lot inside you, but said nothing.
Yes. Um, those things on occasion, like that was a murder. That is etched in, I mean, it just doesn't go away. It's a movie that keeps playing in my head. And there are many, many movies that we have that never go away.
Listen, I didn't experience it. I only heard it, and it goes on in my head too. And I feel it as well. So it really is a very traumatic type of experience, which stays with you and scars you.
Never leaves.
Yes.
I wasn't involved in any wrongdoing at that moment. And I'm not saying I wasn't. I was involved in some terrible things, but I never murdered a woman, in front of me, and thank God I never killed a prisoner. I mean, I had the opportunity to do those things, and I didn't. But sometimes I didn't even do it for the right. I mean, I let them live, not even for the right reason. But yes, so we came back.
Yeah, came back and tried to pick up the pieces, and like all veterans who come back from war, it's very difficult to assimilate back into your old life.
We thought we were assimilating by being quiet. That was if you spoke to anybody that knew me, including my first wife, she'll tell you I never spoke a word about my tour in Vietnam. My friends, a lot of them didn't even know I had been in the Marine Corps, never knew about it. My second wife, Nikki, says, you never said a word about it for the first 10 years. You didn't even, I knew you were in the Marine Corps because you didn't talk about it, and in Vietnam, I thought you were fine. She didn't realize. But our way was to come back and say, okay, let's move on. You move on, but it never leaves you. So that was a normal reaction, I think, for veterans.
Well, yes, even in World War II, I mean, there were men who are alive, and as they have passed on, have talked about some of the experiences that they had and how it affected them. And as a matter of fact, we know Jim Schwartz, who has been on our show, whose brother was in Korea and saw a great deal of, and how it had really.
Well, here's the difference between World War II vets and Vietnam vets. The World War II vets came home, and a lot of them were suffering from what we now call post-traumatic stress disorder. But everybody back home looked at them like they were heroes, and a hero had to remain silent. You didn't talk about it. So they didn't talk about it. They were heroes, and they were quiet, and they would, go on. But I think amongst themselves, a lot of them did talk. When we came home, we were not heroes. In fact, our war was called the War Without Heroes. When we came home, we were branded the losers that lost the war. And we felt like nobody wants to hear what we have to say, except maybe another vet. So I got really quiet. How much time we have?
Don't worry.
So I got on with my life. Now, it wasn't until 2002 that, I've told this before, that by chance, my mom and my first wife gave me back all the letters that I had written to them in the Marine Corps, including all the letters in Vietnam. You're talking hundreds and hundreds of letters, and letters that I wrote to my dad, who died a long time ago, that said, for your eyes only, which means don't let mom or sis see this. That's how bad it was. I got all these letters back by chance. My ex-wife gave them back to me, my mom. I didn't know they had them. So I sat around in 2002, and I started reading them, and I went back in country. And it was incredible, but it was having an effect on me. And my second wife, Nikki, walked in after I was reading these things for maybe 2 weeks and I started watching Vietnam movies, which I never did. And she walked in one day and said, look, I want you to do 2 things for me, meaning her. I want you to go get some help. You need help. And I want you to start writing. Go get, because you talk about it, go right. She actually flung down on a table a curriculum from Southampton. So I did what she told me to do. I went into counseling, and I went into a writing class in Southampton called What We Remember. And that was the beginning of me writing. It was also the beginning of me getting some help. But when I got the help, and I was diagnosed with post-traumatic stress disorder, I denied it and walked away. I mean, I got some help, but when she kept saying, but you have post-traumatic stress, I don't have that. But I had it. And finally, I went to see someone out here that's really been helping me, Dr. Freitas. He's been helping me for years. And he said the same thing, that's what you have. And so I have it. The other thing I have, which is horrible, I have ischemic heart disease that was caused by Agent Orange. I didn't know anything about this until recently. I mean, recently. And it's diminished me. It's taken away from me. I haven't been able to surf. I haven't been able to work out. It's very hard for me to move around. I'm fatigued all the time. But I'm doing it. Like I just tried this very serious case, and I rose to the occasion, and I got an acquittal defending another vet. But all these things are going on. This Agent Orange thing is horrible because it took 40 years for the government to admit that Agent Orange is causing us heart disease. Thousands, tens of thousands of Vietnam vets have already died of what I have. In fact, one of my buddies, Rudy Thomas, just died in November from the disease that I have. They died before they put their claims in. Tens and tens of thousands put their claims in, they were denied. Now the government admits, oh, by the way, if you have this type of heart disease, it's presumed it was caused by Agent Orange. And I'm so mad because they did this to us. It was an agent it's an agent, a government agent that started killing us and Vietnamese and started making our children have all kinds of deformities and problems and still killing us. It's still killing us. This is our government. So I get a little, and believe me, I was a gung-ho Marine. I was like, you give me a mission, I'll do it. My country, right or wrong, I'm going. I would never try to get out of serving my country. I did it. But now I know that, when my country sends me to war, it's not right or wrong. They have to be right when they send us off. They haven't been right in a long time. So my mission now, believe it or not, I've read it in some really serious books like Platoon and All Quiet on the Western Front, is to tell people what it was really like. Most people don't want to hear it. They just go on with their lives. But my mission now is to tell people. It's hard to tell people. They don't want to listen to you. So what do? I write. And guess what? By writing, I have a larger audience. People actually read what I write. And I really write, I write like exactly the way, it's not politics. It's exactly, what was happening and sometimes how I felt and how I cried. And, it's what I write about.
It isn't only that, it's also what you write about, which I think makes it so compelling, is that I know there's the one story that you were in the jungle, and you were in the jungle, you knew that there were people in the woods, or not woods, in the jungle, who had their rifles on you, and you were down in the swamp, and you feel something underneath, you think, uh-oh, I have stepped on a mine. And you bend down, you pick it up, and it's a gun.
Well, what happened is, it was raining, it was really cold and raining, and we were moving through flooded rice paddies. So when I stepped on this metallic object, I thought I was standing on a mine. And of course, I told my radio operator, radio to the squads to move away from me, I'm standing on a mine. And as I was standing there, I decided to see how big the mine was, and I squatted down. I knew I was going to have to step off it and take a chance. I was going to be killed, I was going to be hurt or killed. I knew that. So I reached down into the muddy water. I couldn't see anything. The water was almost up to my knee. and I felt the metal, and I said, okay, it's a mine. And then I started realizing, no, I'm standing on an AK-47. And I took the chance, and I moved my foot, and nothing happened. Now, because I thought, why would they booby trap an AK-47 that I can't even see? It's in the mud, you know. It's like, and then I did something really. After picking it up, I took the selector off. It was on safe. I took the selector off and I fired it, and because they told us that these weapons were very reliable, and it actually fired, but encrusted with mud and water. It was such an incredible weapon.
And you went on and had an encounter
Yeah.
with a Vietnamese. Tell us that. The Viet
Just
Cong.
a little bit further on, not far at all, maybe another 30 meters, we found a North Vietnamese soldier that was wounded, hiding in the corner of a rice paddy. He was shot in the stomach. He was bleeding out there was blood in the rice paddy. And I had his AK, I thought it was his AK-47, because he knew if we find him with a weapon, we'd kill him immediately. So he threw his weapon away. That's what I think. So the thought went through my mind, I'll kill him with his own weapon. But I was so bad that I said, no, I'll leave him to die. And I left him to die in the rain. I even took down, he had a little lean-to. I took it down and said, leave him, let him die. And we left him to die slowly, but 3 days later, the sun came out, and the villagers brought me the same man on a stretcher. He had survived 3 days in the rain. And at that point, I said, no, I'm not, he's a prisoner now, and I medevaced him. I don't know what happened to him. But I tried to do worse than kill him. Understand, that's where I was at.
Yes.
And
yes.
the strange thing is that after all of that, I mean, you really see the dark side of yourself and other people and all of those things. There were a few of us that come back and I think really care more about people. Does it make sense?
Yes,
we
it does.
actually care.
Yes, it does. It makes you more aware and more sensitive to other human beings. And what you have done is to go on and write these stories, and soon you are going to be
yeah.
published.
Yes. I've been published one story at a time I've been very well published, but in a little while, do you see this? Is it up there?
Yes.
In a little while, this book is going to be published called Soft Targets. It's a compilation of about 6 of my stories. It's coming out this summer. It has a glossary. It has an introduction by my son. It has some blurbs, including a blurb by Jules Pfeiffer. Listen to this. Can I read it? Is that hard?
Sure. You got a few minutes.
This is from Jules Pfeiffer, who's a friend of mine and a writer, author.
Yes, we all know.
His blurb. In provocative, no-nonsense prose, Joseph Giannini serves up stories that range from Vietnam to New York's law courts, equally combative, if not nearly as violent. His fast-moving prose covers much ground, and in doing so, leaves the reader quite a bit to think about. These stories are action-packed and reflective at one and the same time. That's from Jules Pfeiffer.
Well, let me just say, you did take that horrific experience, and I have always said, thank God I never went to war, because I know I would have ran crying, Mama, down the street, because I could never have done any of those things.
You're a woman.
I know.
It's a big
I've noticed.
difference.
Well, yeah, but women are serving these days,
I know, but
no, I could never have done anything like that. But let me just say, what you did do is you took that experience, and I don't know if you realize it, you took that experience, horrific as it was, and turned it into something of value. You became this defense lawyer who has compassion and has expertise and has helped many people,
including
veterans among them.
And veterans.
And also, you have written these stories of your experiences, as well as hosted this show, which I know I bump into people who tell me that they've seen the show. So all of these things hopefully build up into a life that has great value now.
How much time we have?
Minute.
I want to tell you something about value. One of my stories, well, all my stories have been posted on the internet. I have never posted any of them, but other people have, after they were published. And a lieutenant that I knew back in 1968 who was wounded and medevaced out, he saw one of my stories recently. He contacted me, and he wrote the epilogue to Double Time Duffy. I've mentioned that. And that's exactly what he said about my writing. He says, your writings are very valuable.
Yes.
That's what he said. Your writings are very valuable. He means to us and to you.
That's right. And you have paid dearly for that price, including the fact that I have to talk loud because you got a hearing aid as well from Vietnam.
I could hear you. I could hear you. Yeah.
So anyway, Joe, we wish you much good luck. I hope that this is successful because you deserve it. You have lived an extraordinary life.
So have you. And,
Well.
and you're one of my best friends.
Yes,
and
darling.
you're the doll.
That's right.